Okay, so now we flipped it over and we're looking at this particular question. It says we can find the value of a function with the function notation below. It says if f of n equals n plus 2, find f of 3. So what that means is we're going to take the 3, because that's what's in spot of the n, and we're going to replace it into the function for the n to find out what our value of f of 3 would be. So how we do that is we would just write f of 3. I'm going to do it underneath it, actually, so you could see. We're going to write f of 3 is equal to, instead of the n, we're going to put a 3 in plus 2. So what we do is we just evaluate that side. This stays by itself. The 3 plus 2 is what we're actually answering, and we get 5. So it's saying that f of 3 is 5, or when n is 3, the output of the function is 5, or the corresponding value for 3 for the output value is 5. There's lots of different ways of saying it, but just knowing that you put something in, you get something out. And when we put 3 in, we get 5 out. Now we're going to find what the value of f of negative 4 is. So again, we know the function is f of n is equal to n plus 2. So we want to find out, when we input negative 4 in, what are we going to get as our value, as our output? So we just rewrite it as f of negative 4 is equal to negative 4 plus 2. When you plug this in your calculator, you should get negative 2. So when you input negative 4, you should get negative 2 out. So that's how you would evaluate a function. But we're going to get into more complicated ones, so I want to make sure that you understand the basics now, like you did when you were in 6th and 7th grade, but it's just different notation. Okay? So flip it over, and we're going to try a little bit more difficult one. And this one has more complicated expressions in it. Here it says if f of x is equal to x squared plus 3x minus 7, what's f of negative 2? So they're saying here, if you plug in negative 2 for all your x's, what are you going to get as your output? So again, I like to just put it underneath it so I see, oh, I'm replacing all the x's with negative 2. So I'm going to put negative 2 squared, keep the function, everything the same, except for your x's. I'm going to keep my 3, replace my x with negative 2, and subtract my 7. And what now I'm going to do is I'm going to plug that whole expression into my calculator right here, including the parentheses. That's the big thing. So you do parenthesis negative 2, close parentheses squared, plus 3 times negative 2 minus 7. And you should get, let me calculate it now, 3 minus 7, and you should get negative 9. So as you're calculating that, you should be plugging that into your calculator, and then the final answer should be f of negative 2 is equal to negative 9. So now the next part says find f of negative 9. That just means now using that same function, f of x is equal to x squared plus 3x minus 7. We want to replace all the x's with negative 9 now. So I'm going to replace all the x's with negative 9. And I'm going to plug that in my calculator. So I'm going to plug in negative 9 squared plus 3 times negative 9 minus 9. And I get 45. So this whole thing comes out to 45, which means that f of negative 9 is equal to 45. And then f of negative 2 equals negative 9. Now down here is a little bit more complicated. They're saying find f of negative 2 plus f of negative 9. Well, we already did the work up here. We found f of negative 9 and f of negative 2, but now what we just want to do is add their answers or their outputs. So what did we get for f of -2? We got -9. So I'm just going to replace that here. And we're going to add it. I'm going to use a different color to show you that we're adding that answer with f of -9, which is 45. So in your calculator, when you add -9 and 45, you should get 36. And that's what you would do if they ask you to answer. You actually have to go plug in the two functions and get the answers, but we already did the work here. So we had the first answer, -9. We had the second answer, 45. We just add those answers together to get what the function of f of -2 would be plus f of -9. Okay? So what I'm going to, we're going to do a couple more together, and then you guys are going to try some on your own. Okay, so this one says this is supposed to be an exponent. It got transferred wrong when I transferred it to Google Slides. It should look like this. F of x is equal to 2 to the x power. So now what you guys need to know is you're going to replace the x in the function with 1/2. So you're going to write f of 1/2 is equal to 2 to the 1/2 power. So what you're going to do is you're going to use your calculator. And in this one, you're going to do 2 caret. And then you're going to do alpha y equals number 1. And you're going to do the fraction button. And you're going to plug a 1 over 2 in there. So it should look like eventually 2 to the 1/2 power like that in your calculator. And you should get some crazy answer that says 1.41421 421 dot dot dot. This is an irrational number, but you have to understand when you're expressing these that you have to just evaluate whatever they're telling you to do. So f of 1/2 is equal to 1.414213562 dot 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 dot. Okay? So make sure that you understand how to plug that into your calculator. That's a big piece of information. All right, get that down. Pause the video if you need to. Now on to the next one. The next one says, well, these are a little challenging. It says if f of x equals this group of points here, find f of 4. So what they're saying, if our input is 4, what's our output? Now this is a little challenging because it's not really an input-output question. You're not like plugging it into something. You're saying if you have to know how to interpret it. If x, this is saying f of 4. What they're saying, if x is equal to 4, what's your output? But really, they're saying, what's y? So now you look here and you say, okay, if x is 4, which one has an x that's 4? This guy. What is your y? That guy. So your answer to this would be 5, because when your x value is 4, your y value is 5 in that point. Each other one had different values for it. So this evaluation using just a set of points would be if your input or your x is 4, what is your output or your y? So this was a little bit more challenging, but a little different. So you just have to kind of like look at it a little bit more creatively. And then the last one we're going to look at is a group of as a graph. So make sure you copy this down if you didn't do so already.